It's the end of work as you know it. Welcome to WorkEND, a Neurodiversity Podcast, a monthly panel discussion exploring the innovative world of neurodivergent individuals redefining work. Join us as we share unique perspectives, experiences, and ideas. Brought to you by Umbrella US and hosted by the fabulous Salena Gavin. This platform features candid conversations with neurodivergent self-advocates and allied community members. Gain firsthand insights into their journeys and discover how ND traits have become powerful assets while challenges continue to be present. Whether you're seeking belonging, inspiration, and new understanding, or aiming to create a more inclusive workspace, WorkEND, a Neurodiversity podcast, offers knowledge, personal stories, and actionable insights. Subscribe today to reshape your perception of work and expend energy in a brand new way.
Well, hello there.
Hi.
So, it's your fabulous host of the WorkEND, Salena Gavin. I am so happy to be back. I missed you last month, so it's good to see you.
I am so glad to be here. Like, I'm not usually here with you, so.
I know.
And I won't be here the whole time, y'all, just so you know. It's not going to be me here the whole time. There's a guest today.
There is a guest. There is a guest. We're just running a little different right now. You'll see this whole entire show today. First, hello, all you humans. This whole entire show today is going to be so different from our previous WorkEND shows. So keep your fingers crossed and hope everything goes well.
Absolutely. So, Salena, thank you so much for having me here today. Hi, all. I am AJ Locascio. I am the founder and executive director of Umbrella US. I am a white gender fluid individual, and I am wearing blue and black glasses, a gray sleeveless shirt. I have blue and black hair with a gray streak in the front, and a gaming headset. In the background is my PC with a little plushie of Oogie Boogie from Nightmare Before Christmas. And on the right side of me, I have a plant, a shelf, the anti-racist vocab guide that I just got at Watermark Books. I was so excited to get it.
That sounds good.
And a sandalwood and cardamom candle.
Okay. I can get with that. I totally forgot to tell people. Okay. I am an African-American female. I have blonde and brown curly short hair. I am currently sitting in front of a mirror and a window because I am at home in the comforts on my couch. And I am wearing a jacket that is gray, black, and turquoise with a turquoise tank top underneath, guys.
Well, you got your armpits hanging out too.
No, we're not going there. I don't do armpits.
I do armpits. I do armpits. The armpits are hanging out. I do not like sleeves, y'all. They just really bother me. And there are very few tops that have sleeves that I can deal with. And that's just part of my sensory profile. So,
and as neurodivergents, we totally understand.
That has been such a problem for me in the workplace. So many times one of our people said, bold of you to assume we're all human. Thanks, Leela. I love that. There we go.
Should I start saying human and non-human?
I know. It's fine. It's fine. It's good. I love it. Okay. One thing, we're going to have Jada Best with us today. Like we do, Jada is in the process of picking a child up from school and doing all of the things and working us into her really busy schedule as a professional. So she asked us to do a couple things before she came on. Leela, AJ knows I'm kidding. I know. Yes. She asked us to talk about neurodivergence and what that is. So can I do that?
Go right ahead.
Awesome. Go find the picture that goes with that, because I have it somewhere. There we go. Neurodivergent. At Umbrella US, we have really expanded the definition of what neurodivergence is. Not that the original definition really actually included all of this. However, it was basically any brain difference, right? Anything that makes your brain different and makes you interact differently in the environment is neurodivergence.
Exactly.
But a lot of people think that what neurodivergent means is autistic, ADHD, or dyslexic. Sometimes they include Tourette's. Sometimes they may include one or two other things, but a lot of people think that it's this really small group of people. However, it's really any brain difference. So there are over 400 brain conditions, and these are all conditions that affect the nervous system in some way. And there are over 400 of those. And there are lots of brain differences. So many people do not have access to resources, which I know you're going to be talking a lot about that today.
Yes.
Yay, that's exciting to me. But so many people don't have access to diagnosis that we don't specifically say you have to have a condition, you have to have, it's not a disorder a lot of times. For some folks, it's a disability. For other folks, it's not a disability, and it's really context dependent. So what we wrote as our definition is a neurodivergent ND person is someone who has one or more co-occurring neurological conditions that may cause disability when interacting with or moving through their environment or in relationship to other people. I do want to note on there that we are in the process of revising this a little bit to make sure that we include and differences, because we don't want to be pathologizing. We want to make sure that we're being respectful to all neurodivergent people. And neurodivergency does not mean that you have a disorder or even a specific medical condition. So
Exactly.
that is what neurodivergency is.
And you know what? I just wanted to add, and the biggest thing is, just because our brains work differently doesn't mean that they don't work correctly. And that is the biggest thing that we like to talk about, is that we are not non-normal. As neurodivergents, our brains work differently, but we have so much to offer to the workforce and to our communities that access to services have kind of blocked us from being able to do. And that's what I like to talk about on this podcast.
Right.
Sorry, I just want to interject with that.
No, I mean, hello, this is your podcast.
I know. But when you get on I like when you get, when you get on your roll and you're discussing what it means, because a lot of people, like you said, have a very small definition, and they group us, the ADHD, the autism, and they don't have the broad definition that, the LGBTQ community. There's so many people with traumatic brain injuries, and the list goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. You and I actually talked about this when we the very, very, very first time. I don't know how much, well, we did an introductory thing where you talked about your multiple neurodivergencies.
Right.
But a lot of people don't necessarily, and you don't even talk about this very much, is having a stroke changes the way that your brain works. Right. And when we first started talking, you're like, I didn't realize that meant neurodivergency. No, I thought neurodivergency was just, ADHD and these things. And that's true. I talk to so many people. I talked to somebody the other day who has cerebral palsy, and they said, I never even considered that as a nervous system thing, that this made me neurodivergent, but it does. So there's another thing that I can add to my list of multiple neurodivergencies.
Exactly. And tonight, I'm so excited because Jada has so much experience and so much knowledge. And we both have experience and knowledge in our personal realm with what we're going to talk about tonight, access to services, and in our professional realm. So it's so good that we'll be able to really dig in and talk about the nitty gritty and, why things are the way they are.
Absolutely.
For
Yeah,
us.
absolutely.
Right.
Leela just said, I had a moment the first time I heard AJ talk about migraine as neurodivergence.
Wow. Exactly. No, and I have a godbrother who suffers from seizures. And
Yep.
I'm sure no one would have ever thought, I know no one in my family thought that would be neurodivergent. And it
Yes.
most certainly is. Most
Yep.
certainly is. So you have so many neurodivergent parents with neurodivergent children trying to live in a very neurotypical world.
Right. And very neurotypical world. And our goal isn't to create a divide between us versus them, neurodivergent versus neurotypical. Our goal is to say we can all work together. Let's make sure that we have access to services. Leila says, amen. Let's make sure that we have access to services. And, this is one of those things that you and I first talked about. And I think made me think, Salena is the perfect person to be this podcast host. Traditionally in medicine, Black women and stroke and heart disease and these things are not, the care that is received in the community by people of color is not the same as it is by white folks and privileged folks and men. And, white cisgender heterosexual men receive very different care. Mm-hmm. When we think about that, what does expanding the definition of neurodivergency and having these conversations that we're having and saying, it's not just autism, ADHD, dyslexia, it's all of these other things. What does that do for our communities? What does that allow us to do?
I believe it allows us to come together. And I think you were talking about earlier, I remember when we were talking about healing together, us working together to create an environment and a community and a workplace that is suitable for all. Mm-hmm. Because many of the accommodations or modifications or things that neurodivergents need, a lot of neurotypical people can benefit from that very same thing in the workplace or in the community or in the environment. And once we can acknowledge that it's okay, what am I trying to say? Like it's okay to be this way, because for so long neurodivergence has been hidden or not talked about. Once we bring it to the table and other people can see, like, listen to what you're saying, like, look at this broad definition, look at all these individuals who fit into this, I think people start realizing that, wow, is it the majority or is it the minority? Mm. That's what I'm starting to think. I know through my educational process of learning more and more every day about neurodivergence, is it the minority or is it the majority? I'm really starting to wonder.
Yeah. Like, how many people need a different kind of access? And
exactly.
Maxwell just said, and this is totally true, this also parallels aspects of the disability movement. Judy Heumann always advocated for big tent understanding of disability. And, let's be honest. The movements that have happened in the past from past communities, especially African Americans working for civil rights and queer folks like myself working for civil rights, these different things, we all build upon each other and we learn, right? So the civil rights movement that happened taught all of these other rights movements so many things. We know that during the civil rights movement that it was disabled, Black, transgender women who were at the forefront saying, hey, look, these are the things that we need. And they really set the stage for the work we do today. We wouldn't necessarily be here or know how to do advocacy without those people. So thank you, Maxwell, for bringing that up. And I have one of our board members, Sheldon Gay, says brain sparkles. I have them all over me right now because I know the truth of that and how I couldn't do any of this work without the work that those folks did before. So
absolutely. And it being so difficult, especially in the BIPOC community, talking about disability is a very difficult topic. And you remember me asking you, what exactly can Umbrella US do for me as an African American woman who's divergent? What are you going to do for me? And that's what many of our communities are saying. No, you want to teach me how to be more like you, because see, that's what many of the programs and the individuals who came into our communities to assist us with people with, disabilities or neurodivergence, that's what they did.
Yeah.
They just wanted us to be more like, the Anglo-Saxon.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's bring it up because you and I haven't had this opportunity yet. So let's just bring this up when we're talking access.
Okay.
I am a white person standing in a position of power as the executive director of Umbrella US. And you said this to me when I said to you, I don't want the stage. This isn't my job. I don't want the stage. And I do not ever want to be seen as that white savior who's coming in, swooping in, and saving people. Yes. And I said, how do I make sure that I can create this space? What do you need for me to create this space? And I loved it. You said, let me use you. I will use you as much as you will let me.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Right. Tell me, honestly, tell folks out there how we can better provide resources, because really that's what this episode is all about, is providing resources. How can we better provide resources if we can get to that space where we can have conversations the way that you and I do, where we're real, and you look at me and you're like, you're white and that's the white perspective, and let's look at it this way.
Right. Exactly. So the question is, how do we get there?
Yeah, how do we get there? I mean, you offer me so much information, and right now we're in a space where you're not getting paid for this work.
Of course, right.
What makes it valuable to you when, in all honesty, you should be getting paid for this work?
My struggles that I've gone through as a human being, as a neurodivergent, my fight, my battles, the students that I work with every day, that burns a fire in me. And I know, I remember you saying earlier today, what we're doing right now may not be seen right now, but I guarantee our work will be seen in the future. Just like we talk about the civil rights movement, Dr. Martin Luther King, he didn't see what his dream was, but it's here. It's here. And it took all of that work to get to this. And I mean, we know there's much more work to be done, but we made it. Right. The dream happened, and we're moving towards that. And I know, like I told you the other day, like I'm watching The Voice, and I have people saying, I'm neurodivergent. there was never a time where someone would divulge that information on national TV during a contest. Never.
That's true.
Because it would count against them. It would really count against them. And now it's something almost to be proud of. It really is. It's like, look what I've done with the challenges that I have in the society that hasn't allowed me to function the way I know how to function, what's comfortable for me. They haven't allowed me to. So those are the things, those little things, the hope for the future, all the work that we're doing right now. And like I said, I see it. The places that I hear people divulge that they're neurodivergent, when I hear someone say neurodivergence, I'm like, oh my goodness, do you know what that is? And then we get into a dialogue, and it's amazing. It's awesome. Amazing.
So
did I answer your question?
I think you did, and I'm going to clarify because I'm a clarifier.
I know you are.
What I'm hearing, yeah, right. What I'm hearing is make me feel safe to ask questions, to be who I am without having to put a lot of energy into pretending to be somebody else. Don't make me try to fit in with you, and scoot your ass over so that I can have that space.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. Speaking of scooting over, it looks like Jada is here, so I am going to scoot off and hand it over to y'all.
Okay.
Here I go.
Hello, Jada. How are you?
I am wonderful. First of all, I want to say thank you for this opportunity to participate. And thank you, AJ, for being a white ally. Love you. And I mean, like, we're just now meeting in this virtual space. When I can hear someone acknowledge their privilege and say, I'm not here to save all the brown and Black people, and you can say, what resources do you need from me, and create this space, that is how we demonstrate what it looks like to be an ally. So kudos to you, and thank you for this space.
Now, Jada, would you like to tell us about yourself? Tell us about your background.
I will. So I'll let everyone know I am Jada Best, and I am an African-American female. I go by she and her. I'm in the comfort of my home office, so there are some blinds in my background and a plant over to the right of me, and I'm wearing a sweatshirt that says she is, and it has a cross, and it says she is on one side, the other side says loved, strong, blessed, worthy, and fearless. I am an educator. Oh, first of all, I'm a momager. So I have a mom and I got to manage them. So I have a son and a daughter. So I'm a momager. But I'm an educator, and I have been in education for the last 28 years. I've been a teacher. I've been a school administrator. I've been a director of education programs. I've worn many hats. I've devoted my career to working in underserved communities. And so that's kind of my background. I'm an educator and I'm an advocate, definitely an advocate for those individuals who sometimes get overlooked, and that's our most vulnerable. That's our children. So as we're talking about access and resources, this is definitely in my wheelhouse.
Awesome. So let's get started, Jada. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about the myth that individuals, which largely consists of non-divergent people, who receive Medicaid, are receiving adequate, appropriate, easily accessed medical and mental health care services for themselves and their children. Because the WorkEND podcast, like we said before, is about marginalization of neurodivergent individuals economically, socially, and politically. So this is a big issue in our community, a huge issue. And in order for neurodivergence to be able to properly function in school or in the workplace, medical and mental health services and issues have to be being addressed. So what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts?
Well, my first thought is, I don't know where that information, like, who thinks that because I'm receiving Medicaid, that's going to give me access to the best doctors, the best nurses, the best services. What tends to happen is the doctors that buy into those plans or agree to use those plans aren't necessarily the ones that have the services that our community really needs. I think the only thing that is of a ease and a benefit to them is that maybe they don't have to pay for the medications that they're receiving. However, right now in our community, we have community schools. Why did the community school model, why did United Way start the community schools model? Is because they realized there weren't enough services. And since our families and our students who are neurodivergent aren't receiving adequate services or know how to access those services, we're going to bring the services to them. So I may have a school glasses. I might need them, have needed them, don't have them. The ones I haven't had a new prescription for. So now when we can get services in schools for anybody and kids to get free glasses, what about the kids who have a mouthful of cavities? Yeah, their parents could take them, but again, you're limited as to the access and the services that you can receive when you're on that type of health plan. So what do? We have dental mobiles, or we have dentists that come, a dentist that comes within the schools.
Actually,
and more often than not, many individuals use the emergency room for everything. They use it for everything. It's like, I mean, I didn't get the help that I needed when I went to my general practitioner, and I keep telling you all what my issues are and what's happening. So people feel like, you know what, I'm just gonna go to the ER, because I feel like they'll have the same sense of urgency that I feel for whatever my condition seems to be.
Yes, it's so good that you brought up the community schools and how the services in Erie, PA through the community schools were bought to the community. So that was one of the things that me and you talked about not too long ago is, these doctors that do accept the Medicaid, some of them are out of our county, literally out of our county. And many of our neurodivergent parents have had to try to access the services with no transportation. And you have to have your kids' physicals, you have to have your kids' dentals, all of these things have to be done before they can be
your kids' vaccinations before they can even be enrolled in school, vaccines.
Exactly. And you have more than one child, and these are the struggles that we're talking about. So those community schools was one way that Erie County definitely addressed the situation. Is there any other way Erie County is addressing this situation?
I'm not sure, because we have 211. So that's another resource that you can call if there are things that are happening, if you're falling behind in your bills, if it's anything that, again, let's say I'm trying to get my mother into a nursing home. How do I navigate that? Where do I even start? 211 is a place where you call in and someone else can walk you through those steps, because sometimes, when you call, you get press 1 for this. Like, listen, half the time I'm like, what number did they tell me? Press 1 for what? Sometimes I'm just like 0. And it's like,
I'm always like customer service rep.
Look, 0 is not. So you know what I've discovered? Press the button that says press 1 if you need Spanish or whatever. Usually I press that button because they'll be like, oh, you don't speak Spanish, we'll try to transfer you to somebody who you need. Like, that's what I do. I press the wrong button. I'm like, I don't know, I just press the button because it's just too many choices. It's too many choices. Can I have a human? Can I just get a human so that you can answer my question and help me navigate this?
Exactly. That's awesome. 211. We have community schools. Now, let's talk about how is it, okay, neurodivergents are marginalized, of course. And I'm kind of losing my thoughts right here because they were all there, Jada, and now they've all flown. They've flown the cuckoo's nest, and that sometimes happens to me.
But listen, I think I want to go back to something that you had said earlier.
Okay.
When you're ND, are we in the minority or are we in the majority?
Exactly.
And so when we live in a divergent world and everyone wants us, we want everyone to assimilate. We want to be able to put everyone and lump everyone in the same category. That's just not how it works.
Right. So what do you think? So am I lumping everybody into one category when I say, okay, all right.
No, because we have to reach across the aisles. It's not that we're trying to exclude anyone. We need to have these conversations so people can be more inclusive. I mean, let's think about it. If I'm a student with an exceptionality is what I'm going to call it. Whether you say I'm on the spectrum, whether you say I'm autistic, whether you say I'm ADHD. If that child has accommodations, if they're working with a learning support teacher or a special education teacher who has that background and training, they're going to be able to provide a structure that is going to be equitable for that individual to have success when they're in the classroom. Why does that person only need that? Shouldn't every student have that? Shouldn't every student be able to have accommodations? Shouldn't every student be allowed to have preferred seating? Shouldn't every student have time and a half to process information and move on to the next thing? You know, maybe the teacher had a test that had 30 questions on one page. Couldn't everyone relate to having 10 questions on the first page? 10 questions. Like, what about the font that you use? What about the colors that you're using? These aren't things that only benefit those that are neurodivergent. They can benefit anybody.
And we talk about that all the time on here. We talk about that I'm so glad you brought that up. We talk about that all the time on here. I always say, you know, we have these IEPs, these individualized education plans for students with exceptionalities when they're in school. And as soon as they graduate, everything ends as if they no longer need these accommodations in their life to be successful. And I think that's a huge problem. A huge problem.
It is.
Because if society would just conform and tweak a couple things, what's wrong with a person that needs a little bit more time to complete a project, or a person who needs more silence in a workplace in order to focus? If you know that the benefit that they're going to give you is astronomical.
Well, let me give you a perfect example. When I feel that a lot of things surfaced post-COVID. So in a school setting during COVID, students had to sit 3 feet apart in the cafeteria. So we didn't have enough seats for everyone. And so we had to have 30 additional seats in the library. And the library had to be supervised by either a school aide or an administrator. And the students would get their lunch first, come in, get their lunch, and walk to the library. So students were so excited about eating in the library because even though we had COVID and measures in place and you don't have people like on top of you, I didn't realize how many students had anxiety. So many students who don't like loud noises. So many students who hated eating in the cafeteria. I had a student who was hiding in the bathroom at lunchtime because she just did not want to go in the cafeteria. And so post-COVID, we just said, all right, everybody back to the cafeteria, and eating in the library was not an option anymore. And that created angst for quite a lot of students and parents. And they were requesting, could we have the option of students who do not want to be in the loud, noisy cray cafeteria to go back to the library cafe. And so it ended up becoming an option that we didn't even realize was something that was needed to make those accommodations for certain students.
Exactly. And I'm sure not all those kids were students with exceptionalities that
No.
have been done. Exactly.
No, that is my whole point. There are other people who can benefit for having different environments and, like you said, quiet or other things to just help them settle themselves or
Now,
regulate themselves.
Exactly. Now, how do you think, like, AJ is like, use me. How, how difficult it is in the BIPOC community when it comes to disabilities or any type of exceptionality to the trust issue for individuals, parents of neurodivergent children, to allow the assistance from others to come in and kind of instruct them in proper ways, better ways, I should say, different ways to handle situations. Me and AJ had talked about, we had the RAP program here where we had TSSs and mobile therapists and BSCs who kind of wrap services around the child, but that kind of dissipated
Okay,
away.
so wait, you and I know the language and the lingo, so you need to break it down to what those acronyms mean.
You're absolutely right. Okay.
Yeah.
TSS, therapeutic support staff, mobile therapist, those were MTs, and behavioral support consultants were BSCs. So TSSs were one-on-one with children in classroom environments, community environments, and in school environments.
Trying to get my charger because my phone's about to die.
Fine, girl. Mobile therapists did therapy so many hours per week, and then BSCs wrote the treatment plans. So all this was wrapped around our families. And for some reason, it started to kind of fall a little short. And what I saw was because we were wrapping around the children, but forgetting about the parents. A lot of the parents required the very services we were offering to the students. But how do we get the parents to acknowledge that they need the services themselves and accept the services willingly and not think that here's another person coming in my home trying to tell me what to do as if I'm doing something wrong?
And Salena, I don't have an answer to that question. I think part of it is we need to take the stigma away from it.
Okay.
So I think the more we can have conversations like this, the more we can have staff development for individuals that work with these families because we really need to, I struggle with, in a leadership role, how to teach someone to suspend their judgment. The minute I feel judged, the minute I do not feel like you have empathy for me, the minute when I feel like you think you know more about me and my circumstances and my situation, then I'm going to shut down. And I think it's no different than parents in those situations. So when there can become a more culturally consciousness and the way we deliver services, the way we listen, when you go into someone's home or a provider is in front of you, the more that the person can feel valued and respected, then the more trust that they would have for you.
That is perfect. And that's what Umbrella US is trying to offer communities so that we can break down the stigma, break down the doors, and have people, like you said, you realize so many students benefited from that weren't even exceptional. Society needs to realize how many people can benefit from what we're offering and how society can benefit. And I guess, like you said, we just have to keep doing podcasts like this, doing outreach work, is there anything else? I mean, I'm really
Absolutely. So there's something else. So I think the other part of this too, teaching people to advocate for themselves. I
mm,
think one of the most important things I have done in my field of work is when I can empower a student in a
speak.
very respectful way to say to a teacher, your comment was hurtful. Because
Mhm.
sometimes teachers say things and we're like, hurry up, Salena, you're always the last one, to come back from your locker. And I mean, and I didn't
Right.
necessarily say Selena's the slowest one as she comes, from her locker. I didn't mean it to be hurtful, but I received it as being hurtful. And sometimes kids, if I say something to Miss Gavin, then she's going to say I'm being rude or she's going to write me up. And I'm not saying call Miss Gavin out in front of everyone, but just say, Miss Gavin, earlier when you were fussing, or earlier when you were reminding me, to come along because I'm always last, that hurt my feelings. I'm having a hard
Right.
time being organized, or I wait because I don't want everybody pushing and shoving me. Like, so if I can empower my students to say, um, Miss Best, you're reading those directions too quickly. Could
Mhm.
you slow down and read them again? Because again, the kid doesn't want to be called out. But if I can empower you to acknowledge what you need and you can tell me, then I'm better at meeting your expectation. There's nothing worse than being in a relationship with someone and you don't know what they expect from you. And it's even
Exactly.
worse when I'm passive aggressive about it, or I don't tell you. But if I can teach you and help you acknowledge what it is you need and teach you to advocate for yourself, then when you grow up to be an adult, you'll advocate for your own children too.
And that's everybody around the board. That's absolutely correct, with children, adults, everybody in every facet of life needs to advocate for themselves. I know, I work at the JFK, the after school program, and it's funny that you should say that because just today in group, I discussed with kids, I said, do you know how to talk to an adult and tell them how you're feeling without being disrespectful, without being rude, or getting yourself into any trouble? And so we did role plays, which was amazing. And that's one of the things that I think needs to be offered to a lot of communities, is getting out there and role playing and discussing these issues at communities, more community centers, and more schools and government agencies. I still, even with all the work that I've done, learning about neurodivergence and on this podcast, there's still like this little part of me that thinks, is it ever really going to change? Which literally kind of parallels with when it comes to racism. Is it really ever going to change? Because in our community, it's just like doubled upon. So I guess we
So,
just have
so
to
let me, so well, let me ask you this: racism is a construct. Would you agree with that?
yeah, elaborate.
So, racism is an integral part of our society. There are
Definitely.
institutions that surround it, there are laws that enforce it. So, when you talk about is it ever going to change, I think we really need to begin to accept that racism is an integral part of our society. But the
It's just,
question becomes, how do we shift? How do we create more allies? How do we acknowledge privilege when it exists? How do we begin to shift how things are equitable? Because that is going to, it's not, I don't think it's ever going to disappear.
no.
It's not.
And wouldn't you
So,
say that
but
that's political? Is that a political issue? Is that a,
all right.
where'd you go,
We
girl?
live,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
right here. I'm trying to charge my device. We live in a capitalistic society.
Amen.
It's about the haves and the have-nots. So if we continue to produce a class system of undereducated individuals, under-resourced communities, then that means that I will continue to have a group of individuals that can be viewed as inferior, and they will be those who will be less benefited by a capitalistic society.
Oh my gosh. I just gotta. That's
So, I mean, there is, we have to begin to know and understand that services are lessened and resources are lessened when I live in a certain zip code.
Yes. Yeah.
My zip code should not determine the quality of my education or my healthcare or the services that I receive.
And that is something that we have to keep pushing and pushing and pushing until we begin to see some type of change. Some type of change. I believe we have seen some type of change. I mean, I have seen baby steps, especially in our community with a lot of the systems that you're talking about. I believe that they've attempted to. You act like you want to say something, girl.
No, I mean,
okay.
But it goes back to, I believe, even if we take 5 steps forward and then we take 3 steps back, that's 2 steps that I made some progress with, right?
Right.
I move forward and I step back. It's progress. So I think we need to keep moving on that continuum of progress.
So as the host of the WorkEND, are there any other, like, what are some ideas that you would bring to the forefront, like topics? Because right now I am looking for that. I am looking for, because I don't want to always be interviewing individuals who are of our what do I want to say, stature. Do you know what I mean? That have degrees that are in academia. I want to have individuals on here who are living this right now. You know what I mean? So what are some topics or ideas or anything that I could use to pull these people in? Because that is what I am trying to do now, to get so many people. I need people to listen and be interested in this, because we're living this every day. And it's like, how can I light a fire under everybody else's ass, basically?
I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. I mean, again, a lot of people reach people via social media. You might want to just start making little videos to say, did you know? And list statistics, because sometimes statistics catch people's attention. And you ever see those ads where people don't even talk, they just hold up signs?
I love
the next
that.
Poster.
Yes.
Hold the next poster. And I really think you should probably get some young people. I really think it would be really cool to have some young adolescents talk about their experience, because they can talk about their experience. They can talk about maybe what they've noticed, in terms of their parents, what they noticed about, services and things like that, that they received. Because oftentimes our young people don't have a voice.
They don't have a voice. That's awesome. And like I said, I work with young people every day, K through 12th grade. So that would be something very easy to do, to get like a little podcast with my preteens. That's awesome.
Yep. And get their parents' consent and see if their parents want to participate too. And our kids love technology. Who wouldn't want to be on a podcast?
Oh my gosh,
who wouldn't want to see themselves on a video? I mean, they're already doing TikTok, which is soon to be banned. I don't know how they're going to ever live without that. If that
Wait a minute. What did you say about TikTok? TikTok's going to be banned?
Oh my gosh. So wait a minute.
I thought that they accepted a certain contract that allowed a certain type of TikTok to be here. as
Well,
opposed
I think
to,
part of the problem is the government of the country in which has the licensure is allegedly spying on us through their software. So they're trying to get them to break from their parent company. The parent company is what poses a threat to our air quotes national security.
okay. All right, best understood. So, oh gosh, that's gonna really harm my teenagers. That's their
In a good way
whole
or a bad way.
social. Um, I
But
think
why?
some
But
of
anyway,
them.
that's a whole nother show topic. Kids and technology and why our kids are so obsessed and wedded
That's their
to,
voice. That's many of
especially,
them.
I mean,
That's their
wait, and
voice.
not only that, peer pressure is a terrible thing, especially when
Mhm.
TikTok is telling you to swallow cinnamon and rip all the things out the bathroom at your school, like all kinds of craziness.
Yeah, yeah. And I wonder sometimes, is TikTok is that a good realm for a neurodivergent?
No, no,
Yeah, that's what
because
I
it
was.
sends it sends you straight down the rabbit hole, and then they got
It
algorithms
really
and
does.
everything else. Wait, algorithms and everything else that they track. Like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, not such a good idea. Not such
no,
a good idea. So we have hit on so many points, Jada, with community services, the services being bought to individuals in communities that require access to them and that don't have access. The myth that individuals on Medicaid, because many of their services are free, that they're getting better services or adequate services or just mediocre for the matter. And we all know that not to be true. Getting the word out is neurodivergence the minority or the majority? And if we treat it as the majority, like you stated when you talked about your students in school, in the library versus the cafeteria, and having that option for a more relaxed, quiet environment, why can't that be done in so many different facets?
I don't know. I don't know.
So, Jada, do you have any last comments that you would like to give to the WorkEND? Because I'm just letting you know right now, you will be on again.
Oh, will I be on again? Okay, I
You'll
will
be on
gladly
again.
be on
You'll be
again.
on again. As long as you want to.
I think that it is really important to note that differences are something that should be celebrated, and I don't understand why differences I think part of it is we've weaponized differences.
Right.
Like if my skin color is different than yours, that's been weaponized.
That's like a check mark against
If
me.
my gender is different than yours, or if I'm non-binary or whatever it is that I am, then that's been weaponized. And so at the end of the day, if I cut you, you bleed red, you cut me, I bleed red. Like, I'm human and you're human. And so I really feel like this is a conversation about understanding, acceptance, and teaching. There are so many missed opportunities that we have.
Definitely. And I know Umbrella US want in the future, as we grow as an organization, we want to hold events that enable people to be able to do that, to come to a safe place, to be safely neurodivergent or neurotypical, and everyone in that space feels safe to be who they are. And that's all Umbrella US really wants, is for everyone to be treated fairly, for everyone's needs to be met, regardless of what the need is. If it's a need, and that's what
Absolutely.
everybody seems to not see. There's a great
That's right.
need.
It says right there, hashtag more like than different. Absolutely.
I love it. Any last thoughts?
No, that's
I
it
want
for
to thank
me.
you so much for doing what you did. I know you were so busy picking up your son and rushing
I told you I'm
home.
a momager.
I know
Listen.
you're a momager, and I love every minute of it because the way you handle, I mean, I just like to let everybody know that Jada is a very long time friend, family member of mine, and she's the bomb diggity. You know how I say WorkEND is the bomb diggity? You know Jada's the bomb diggity because
Thank
Jada,
you.
she
Thank
throws
you.
it down. I mean, she has her kids doing the best. They are the best, okay? And they're, I mean, it's just amazing how she is able to manage her children's lives, her life, and everybody else's life
And take
around.
care of other people's kids, right?
Exactly. And do it and still have a smile at the end of the day and be
Yeah,
ready to do it again the next day.
that's
That's
right.
Jada Best. I love you, Jada. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
being
Thank
on.
you.
Okay.
See
You
you
have a
next
great night.
time. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us again. I'm sorry I got a little tongue-tied. Please forgive me, but please join us again in April for our next show. I'm so excited. This is so new to me. This whole one-on-one, it's making me talk a little bit more. So I'm kind of losing it. But, my neurodivergence is at its finest. But I will be back next month. And I'm going to be with it because I'm the bomb diggity. And so is the WorkEND. Love you all. Good night.
Thanks for listening to The WorkEnd, a neurodiversity podcast, a monthly live panel discussion coming to you every second Thursday, 6:30 p.m. Central. If you or someone you know would like to be a panelist, be sure to let us know by filling out our Share Your Experience form at umbrellaus.org/take-action. If you're catching this live on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to our channel for updates on this and other Umbrella US events. And finally, if you'd like to support the podcast, be sure to leave a rating and review and share with your friends. To donate to Umbrella US and learn all the latest from us, visit us at umbrellaus.org and follow on your favorite social media platform.